Welcome to ISE's FX Options Weekly Outlook, a weekly outlook on the US dollar versus the major currencies, hosted by Jason Ayres, a top industry instructor and founder of OptionSource.net. Learn to trade your views on the strength or weakness of the US dollar.
Well, hi there, and welcome to the ISE FX Options Weekly Outlook for August 10th to the 17th. As always, I'm your host, Jason Ayres, founder and president of OptionSource.net. We're going to start off with a look at our weekly U.S. dollar index. This is a great way to gain some perspective as to how the U.S. dollar has been trading against a basket of currencies. All I have to say this week is, wow, last week we were looking at a bounce off of a support at the 72 level there and suggested that we'd see a continuation and a test likely at the 74 where we figured we would meet with some resistance. As you can see here, we blew right through that level and actually find ourselves now testing an area in and around the 76 to 76 and a half focal zone. In saying that, this area represents a fairly significant resistance level, and the likelihood of a retracement back down into that 74 and a half is a high probability. If we look at our RSI, we still continue to see some momentum to the upside. Our MACD still suggests a very strong trend to the upside. So any consolidation there would likely or could likely result in a continuation to test higher highs. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we look at our first ISE currency pair here, the CDD, or the U.S. versus the Canadian dollar. Last week we saw a break of that 103, which we suggested was a very significant resistance level that had been tested a number of times over the last month or so. We thought that a break of that would likely play into a secondary resistance at the 104 to 104 and a half. We did see a little bit of a stumble in the price action there. However, we broke right through that, and we now find ourselves testing and somewhat rejecting off of the 107. That 107 represents a very significant resistance level from previous price moves. In observing that, we would likely see or could likely see a retracement back down into that 104 to 104 and a half level. If we look at our MACD still suggests a very strong trend to the upside. Our RSI is also suggesting that we continue to see some positive momentum in this price action, which obviously isn't tough to identify in looking at our price chart. In saying that, should we see that consolidation, a continuation, and a break above that 107, we would likely see our next resistance level at the 110. Okay, let's take a peek at the YUK, the US versus the Japanese yen. I hate to sound like a broken record, but last week we suggested that a break of the 108.5 would likely meet with a little bit of resistance at the 109.5. We did see, much like the CDD, a little bit of hesitation there for one day, but we very quickly got over that, and now we find the pair value playing in at the 110.5 level. Much like our last two observations, we are playing off of a bit of a resistance level here, and the probability of a rejection is somewhat high. In saying that, a natural retracement would be back down into this 109 level here. If we look at our MACD continues to suggest a strong trend to the upside for the U.S. dollar. Our RSI is still showing that we do have some momentum to the upside as well. Should we see a consolidation down at that 109 and a break above that 110.5, we would be likely targeting the 113.5. The next pair value we're going to look at is the EUI, the US versus the Euro. Last week we saw a little bit of a consolidation at the 64.5 and suggested that if it could push through that, we'd likely see a resistance at the 65. We actually saw the price continue through that focal area, where we're now testing the 66.5 zone. This area actually represents a very significant resistance as well in this particular currency pair. With that in mind, a rejection off of that 66.5 is likely to play back down into that 65.5 to 66 focal area. If we look at our MACD, it still suggests that we're in a very strong trend to the upside. Our RSI still suggests that we are still trending with some momentum to the upside as well. We do have to, though, keep in mind, again, that we're playing off of that very significant resistance in there at the 66.5. However, a break through that is likely to see us play up towards the 68 to 69 focal area. Let's take a look at our last pair value here, the BPX, the U.S. versus the British pound. Last week we saw a consolidation at the 50.5 area and suggested that a break through this focal zone would likely meet with some resistance at the 51. We did see a push through that, and our next logical target was the 51.5. We broke through that and now find ourselves trading off of the 52.25 focal area, which represents a significant resistance level on the bigger picture. A rejection off of that is likely to meet with support down in at that 51.5 level. If we look at our MACD, it's suggesting that we're seeing a very strong continuation in trend to the upside. RSI is suggesting that we do still have some momentum to the upside. Just remember, with the U.S. dollar against all of our major currencies, we have seen a very significant move, and the likelihood of a retracement is a high probability. Break through this area at the 52.25, we would likely be targeting that 53 level as our next logical area of resistance. Well, folks, that's been your FX Options Weekly Outlook for August 10th to the 17th. I'll be taking a break for 2 weeks. However, my partner, Patrick Serezna, Chief Derivatives Market Strategist for OptionSource.net, will be taking over our weekly outlooks. So I won't see you here next week, but I'll be joining you back again for the week of September 1st.
Thank you for participating in this week's session. Please join us again next week. For more information about Jason Ayres and to sign up for free FX Options trade alerts, just visit www.optionsource.net. To learn more about ISE FX Options, including our weekly webinar series, visit us at www.ise.com/fx. ISE FX Options can easily be traded through all options-enabled brokerage accounts. These exchange-listed securities are cash-settled in U.S. dollars and have a European-style exercise.